to Inspiration. I'm Jerry King. Today we are interviewing some wonderful professors from South Africa, and we are happy to have you here in Jamaica. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my mother always said that the thing that we did not get when we came on the slave ship are the different languages that the Africans speak. And we know that we are descendants, but we never learned all the languages.
Yes.
So I know that in South Africa, I heard that you speak maybe 11 languages.
Yes.
Okay, so this morning, when I was trying to practice your name, I came up with a new language. So that's a 12th language. So I am going to ask you to kindly introduce yourself, starting here.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Sechaba Mashomahon. That's my first and the last name.
Okay.
Yes.
And that sounds wonderful.
Mine is Molebansi Melton Ngwane. I'm using Melton just to ease everybody's tongue.
Mine is Stefan Shalele. I can give you a little bit of taste of the different language, how you greet in different languages.
Sure.
If you greet in isiZulu, you say Sawubona.
Sawubona.
Yes, that's how you greet.
Okay.
In Afrikaans, if it's in the morning, you'll say Goeiemorgen.
Goeiemorgen.
Goeiemorgen. That's for good morning.
Okay, good morning.
Yes. If it's in the afternoon, Goeiemiddag, and that's
Okay.
good afternoon. In Sesotho, Dumela, if you are alone. If you are many, Dumelang.
Okay.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there's a change there. In Shivenda, Nda. If you are a male person, Nda. It's a gendered
Oh, it's a
greeting.
gender.
Gendered greeting. If you are a male person, you say Nda. If you are a female person, you say Ah.
Okay. Similar to Spanish. Spanish
Yes.
does that with the gender.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
That's a little bit of taste of the
Thank you.
greetings in
Thank
some
you
of the
very
South
much.
African languages.
Yes. Okay. So, thank you for that language introduction. I wanted to speak with you this morning because I heard an interview you were doing yesterday, and I know that you grew up in a certain era in South Africa, and for me, I tell you, it is really inspiring to be able to speak with people who actually grew up there.
Yes.
So I'm just going to ask you quickly, just to go through with me, you know, your childhood, what it was like during that time, and then after that we'll talk a little bit about how you made the transition educationally and so forth. So if you could start, it's just going to be an open conversation.
I was born many years ago on a farm, which is a rural area, and during those years in South Africa, there were what were called Bantustans or homelands. There were specified areas for different ethnic groups.
Okay.
So if you are Zulu speaking, you'll go to KwaZulu. If you are Sotho speaking, you'll go to Qwaqwa. That's where our family went. And if you are Tsonga or Venda, you'll go to Venda or Gazankulu and those areas. If you are Tswana speaking, you'll go to Bupunda Tswana. Those were different homelands, different geographical areas, and they were self-governing territories.
Okay.
Yes, and where you'll find only blacks there, and if they are whites, they are there for a specific reason. They've been deployed, yes, as we use it these days. So we will go to schools designated for your ethnic group. So if you are Sesotho speaking, you'll go to a Sesotho speaking school. You will not go to a white school maybe.
Were these, you said, in the rural areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mainly the homelands were rural. You would find that development was stunted. It was not as it was happening in what was called the Republic of South Africa, or white South Africa there.
That's right.
Yes. So we went to those different schools. You could not go to some of the schools, even in our areas. If you go to town, you were supposed to have a something like a permit, yes, a pass,
Yes.
for so many days to stay in those areas. If you stay there, overstay your welcome there, you will go to jail.
Okay.
And we were also supposed to carry a national identity document, a pass, yes, which is not a requirement now in the new dispensation.
Well, we hope not.
Yes, we were supposed to carry that. That's why in the 1960s you had women marching to the union buildings against the pass laws.
Okay.
Because it was introduced to the women, and the women were more brave than men because they marched in 1956.
56.
Yes.
Okay, they marched
Yes.
about it.
Yes,
Okay.
they marched about it. Yeah, that's briefly about the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Well,
then you
yes.
grew up close
Yes,
by. Is
and
it?
no, it's some distance from there, and maybe to put some little history into the conversation, you find that South Africa, let's say 100% of the country, right? And then it's divided into two sections. About 13% of South African land was, put aside for black people's occupation.
13.
13.13.
Okay.
And you should remember that we constitute more than 80% of the
Of
total
the population.
That's right. So, but we had to be squeezed into
That's
13%. And the 13% of the land, this is where Kwakwa comes into the picture. Then you have about, let's say, about 9 different language groups, and then the 13% being subdivided among the 11 different language groups,
Wow.
9 language groups.
So
African
it's
groups.
quite tight.
Tight, yes,
Tight.
very small spaces,
Small
with
spaces.
high levels of density populations in those areas. Now the remaining part, 87%, was described as white South Africa, where you have very large tracts of land owned by one individual, people owning mountains, rivers as individuals. And that's how the geography was.
Okay.
Then you'd have smaller towns, especially in the Free State where I come from, with a population, say, about 30,000 to 40,000. Even that population, too, in the white South Africa would be divided along racial lines. You'd have the town, which would be well off, the level of opulence
Income
and so on, and so on was very high, and the poor white majority. And now the understanding was that those black settlements in white South Africa, people staying there were just temporary sojourners. We're just there as long as we were healthy and we could provide the labor to
take care of the children
That's
and
right.
all of those.
Yes, of the white section of the population.
Okay.
So immediately you got old and no longer able to do your job, then you moved
down to the homeland.
13%. Yes.
Oh.
And so it was a very interesting, also economically speaking, because then you have a large reservoir of cheap labor where you can just go in and draw people for free, almost free, do a job. When they get tired, then you take them back and then you get more, that kind of
That's
thing.
right.
So we never had like permanent residence in white South Africa.
Okay.
We could not vote, we could do not do anything.
You just live.
We just lived
to be of service.
Yes, of service.
Okay.
And that's why even schooling was just limited up to primary level in majority of those small towns in the Free State. Because, because we even had a law, called Bantu Education Act of 1954, which said, even subjects like mathematics and going beyond primary was not necessary for Africans. Because if we would be educated beyond that, we would aspire for things that would never be able to achieve.
Okay, well, stick us in with that, because now I'm interested to know how you moved from
Yes, that's right.
that to the next level. So
That's right.
let us just hear a little bit about where you grew.
Yes. I grew up in almost similar setting as Chavo, but in a bigger city.
Okay.
A bigger city which is the capital of the province.
So South Africa is vast.
Yes.
Nice.
So I grew up in Bloemfontein. However, the divisions were still there. Blacks were living in a different setting, and then whites were living in different settings. And both the economy of the two settings were totally different. You could tell by just moving there. I mean, the conditions will tell to say here is really poor people who are living in that
Okay.
area. And then the other side is rich people and is white people. And then further within the black community, blacks were subdivided in terms of their ethnic groups.
Okay.
Yes. I'm a Tswana speaking. I couldn't go to the school where they speak isiXhosa. We have Sesotho in the town, but then these people were separated and then they attend different schools.
Divide and conquer.
Yes, yes. So that was the rule.
Right.
And when we had primary and high schools,
Yeah.
or secondary schools, however, we never had universities and technicals, but they were there. Big technicals and a big university where we are working today. But if I complete at the university, at the school, I couldn't go to and then move to the university.
Tell me a little bit about what happened to make that transition. Is it the Nelson Mandela's, people had to put themselves out there? What is it that happened in South Africa that would allow you to now move out of those areas?
Yeah, well, it really differed from person to person.
Okay.
And many of the kids that were with until the end of grade 6, grade 8, I think that was standard 6 then, many of the very bright kids could not make it beyond that because there was no high school, there was nothing, there was no support. Actually, they were being discouraged to go beyond. So that's why only about 6 of us, managed to go beyond grade 6.
6 out of how many?
Out of in a class of 52, about 6 managed to go beyond that into secondary school. But even then it was not easy because secondary schools were far away, like 2 hours away from there. There was no transport, there was no whatever. So we had to stay there for like 6 months.
Why were you chosen though? What was the criteria why 6 of you came out?
Yeah, well, it's selection on the basis of firstly the test. There was exit test, and then, but the main thing really was whether you could afford to go beyond that. And so many of the kids could not afford, boarding school fees, education beyond that. And then for some of us, parents had to really dig deep, that to sacrifice, do extra things, sacrifice just to make sure that we managed to go there, which was not the case with majority.
What would your parents do for a living?
Every year when we had to go to school at the beginning of the year, my father would sell cattle to pay school fees for us. Yes, we used to have cattle, small stock and large stock on a subsistence level. Remember, the 13% land was less arable, and the more arable was given to this. The white minority would own even mountains. So that's how we survive. Yes, we will have cattle and we will sell them sometimes very cheaply, just to get us into school.
Get the money.
If you had a pair of shoes,
yes.
I remember I did not have shoes for many years when I up to maybe the 7th grade or something like that. And if you had school shoes at the beginning of the year, that is the end of it. If they get damaged before the year ends, you may not have no shoes. You have no.
Okay.
Yes, but that's how we survived. I think. Yes.
And funny enough, that's why we know our cultures are really intermingled because we have it here too, using the same method of sacrifice to send children to school.
Yes.
What about your parents?
Well, my parents also, they were not. My mom is not educated. I think if she has education up to grade standard 6. Standard 6 would be grade 8.
As far as she could get to at that time.
Yes, and then from there she has been a domestic worker throughout.
Okay.
And well, my dad being a preacher and a priest, but that was a kind of a job that he was doing on Sundays and
That's right.
weekends. But during the week, my dad was just a handyman, helping with the just as an extension of the white man, a tool, and that's basically the job that he was doing.
So when you went out of your areas to go
Yes.
to school,
Yes.
did you go back?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
So like when we went to this high school, we would spend 6 months there in the boarding school under very appalling conditions. But at the end
Boarding
of
school.
yes, but at the end of the 6 months, then would come back home and so on every year until we completed high school. And the same thing happened for university education, where I had to go like 1,000 kilometers away to go for that 6 months again and come back.
Okay, so where did you go to tertiary level schooling?
During the time when I went to university, there was a branch that was established in our area, the Coco branch, where I now work.
Oh,
Yes. And which is now part of the University of the Free State. And in the past, it couldn't be because the University of the former University of the Free State, University of the Orange Free State, there was an O there, was serving African-speaking white children or students. Yes, and ours was serving Sesotho-speaking black students. So they couldn't be one university, even though they were in one province.
That's right.
Our mother institution was 600 kilometers away from us in another province. So we were almost a forgotten lot because developments will happen at the main campus and the satellite campus will suffer. But it was very close to home, so I used to, yes.
What about you?
So actually during the apartheid time, it was not only schools that were divided, even at the university levels. These universities, they were universities that were meant for blacks, and they were even further subdivided into languages. Like University of Zululand that will cater for the Zulus. We have Fort Hare University, where Mandela and many other African leaders attended. And that was catering for the Xhosa-speaking community. And then we have University of the North, which was catering for the Sotho and the North Sotho, which is Sepedi. I attended the university, which was a non-residential university, where students will commute and then come back. And then this university also was meant only for black students. And then it was in many towns and many provinces in the country.
Has that changed? I mean,
Yes,
it's now
yes,
integrated?
Yes.
Okay, I know you went a different path. Where did you go to your
different?
Right.
Let's call them eras. That I came first and they came later. So during my time, there was no black university in the Free State, none. And that's why we had to, and the university where we are working now was exclusively for African-speaking people. So we couldn't go there. There was no way you could. There were only 4 universities in South Africa, as Milton has indicated. And these were very far from the Free State. That catered for black people. But even then it was along racial lines. Now closer to 1980 something, let's say 85, 86, then it created other universities in big cities. And this is where Milton could attend. And but it was just a residential university with very limited offerings, curriculum offerings. And the interesting thing is that those universities, those black universities, are now closed, because now we moved to a more integrated society.
Okay, but you went to Harvard, some North Harvard. What is that?
Harvard. This is where I did my master's, and
Harvard
this was
in
the
Massachusetts?
US. That's right.
Okay.
So this is much later in life, around 1987, 88. And again, there was a problem of me being accepted, in some of the universities. But there was a scholarship led by, I think, Bishop Tutu, and whose intention was to support black students. This was called Education Opportunities, managed by the Education Opportunities Council, to create the alternative, because within the country, it was very hard to move, educational. We were denied many things.
You were denied.
Yes, and then through that scholarship, we managed to apply to all over the place, and I was fortunate to get into Harvard, which I think gave me some basis, from which to network and interact and learn and actually look at my country from a different perspective. Yes, so I really value that experience, because it really has enriched what one is trying to do, and emphasizing the value of hard work. That if we as communities, as people who have been on the margins, can really come together and work hard, we can still achieve like anybody else. The constraints that we have, we can overcome them through collaboration and hard work, and really putting our footprint, very visibly in education and many other spheres of life.
So you're all professors at Free State University.
Yes.
I find that name very interesting. Free State.
Yes.
And what's the origin of that?
The university, it was initially called the University of the Orange Free State, but it originated as a college. Yes, and the college it's called Grey College. It's still there next door to the university. Yes, and they marched, I can't remember the year, but they marched to the new premises at some point way back. And it was exclusively for white African speaking students.
What is confusing is the free part of it.
That's right.
Yes. Where people begin
free
to associate that with emancipation. That is not. That was Orange Free State, as the Boers, the Afrikaner, those with a Dutch origin were fighting with the English, and then it ended up fighting, and then they have that piece of land which is the province, and then that was called a free state.
This is where we're going to sweat now. Yes. Aren't you so guys just like angry? Do you grow up kind of, especially in your teenage years, when you really realize what is happening to you? Aren't you like angry?
At schools, I think there was control over what can be taught. But when you get to universities, they did not have much control. They had still had control, but the curriculum, that's why we were taught about Bantu education and what the intentions were with Bantu education. And that's, during those years, you'll find that university students at universities will go on strike every year. Because of, I think, partly because of that anger. Now they start, their eyes start opening up to this Bantu Education Act. And it says this is how they were supposed to be treated, and this is their destiny. They can't do this, they can't do that. And when they were taught that, they got more angry. And that's how every year, I think during my study period at undergraduate, there was every year we should find a reason to toy. There's something in our country called toy. Protest. Yes, toy. And I think that's how we do. But
there was no way that we cannot be angry.
There's no way you could be. I can see that.
The system was just suffocating. I mean, and however, it made us to be conscious. Because you could see that indigenous or African languages, knowledges, were pushed to the periphery. And then, however, we had some of the teachers who were very sharp. Within that particular system, they were able to conscientize us about the system. Even if teachers were not going to conscientize you, the setting will automatically conscientize you. To say if you have to move to the location where conditions are totally different from where you usually buy grocery. and where your parents go and then work.
Okay.
If you visit that area where you have to go to the restrooms, and then restrooms reminds you to say, this belongs to the Europeans, and they are written Europeans only.
Wow.
And then even if as a child, if you don't understand what is a European, you just have to wait and then see what complexion is going to the European direction.
Oh, you don't understand the word European, so you just wait and see. My goodness. So movies like Sarafina,
Yes.
they're real.
Yes.
It's a real situation.
Yes.
And you know, with Sarafina, I found that even my own children,
Yes.
they watched it several times.
Yes.
So throughout the world, people of color, we were feeling
Yes.
what was happening, even though we were not there.
Yes. Yes.
And the Nelson Mandela,
Mm.
you know, he's big in Jamaica.
Yes. Yes.
And
Right.
in the movie Sarafina, you can
Yes.
clearly see the power that the white policemen had
That's right.
over the black ones.
And it's real.
It's
Yes,
real.
yes.
So there's a scene where the black policeman is unleashing a dog on a black person
Yes.
by instruction by the white police officer, and only
On
stops
his own,
only
running
stops
out.
when the white police officer says it's enough.
Yes.
Sabela.
Yes.
It's a very sad state of affairs, but it is real.
Yes.
Yes.
So the question of anger really it's very critical. I think like my colleagues say, there's no way you could avoid that. It's because this apartheid thing was in getting into every aspect
Of your life.
of your life.
Yes, yes.
Whether you liked it or not, you really just couldn't.
So it was just imposed
Yes,
upon you,
yes,
and you could not
all.
change it.
Yes, and however, that's where the small spaces of contestation were created by some people that came before us, and ever since the whole revolution movement started, up till the most recent 1976, where I think the scenes from Sarafina
Yes.
depict that kind of thing. So it spread throughout the country, and this were the influence that we got from Jamaica, for example. We were reading a lot of stuff of people, the music that people played, Peter Tosh, Bagas Gavi's stories from the whatever.
They were there in South
Yes,
Africa.
we read,
Yes.
but these were not in the mainstream literature. We got that the underground way, and we could read and understand some of those
So,
things. Yes.
The understanding
Yes.
from Jamaica,
Yes.
Marcus Garvey, and so
Yes.
on, your
Yes.
understanding that black people could be free.
That's
Yes.
right. And this is what kept
It kept you
the
going.
hope and the possibility.
Wow.
Yes, and interesting enough, if there would be a white South African boxer fighting maybe an American black,
John Tate.
yeah,
Big Tate is fine.
so this is how powerful that whole thing. So this is, and I believe somehow at the back of our mind, this is why we're here. We still remember
Yes.
that
Yes.
this is where we got the inspiration, and this is where.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yes,
I think
yes,
that's wonderful for
yes.
the Jamaican people
Yes,
to know
yes, yes.
that they played such
Yes.
a major role
That's right. Yes.
in how you felt about
Yes.
your own freedom.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
that is really.
I still have my old records.
Yes.
Peter Tosh, Jimmy
Yeah.
Cliff, Marcus Garvey. I
Yeah.
know that Ziggy Mali was singing the
That's
song,
right.
and the wife as well, Rita Mali, were singers.
Excellent.
We associated very well with it. That was the music that kept us.
No wonder you guys are so comfortable.
Yes.
Look at your scarf and your hats and everything.
Well, if you look at the South African flag, does
Yes.
not differ very much from this.
That's so
Same
true.
colors, they just added blue and red.
That's
But
so
basically the same. But even the school, the setting of the schools,
Yes.
where we're having under-resourced material in the schools.
That's right.
Where classes were overpopulated, teachers were undereducated. So some of those things really will just work on your psyche to make sure that you become angry and you also become conscious, and then also wants to change the setting.
Wonderful.
Well,
And with that, I want to now move to 2015.
yes.
You are all professors
Yes.
at Free State University.
Yes.
That's quite an achievement.
Yes, but yes,
Go ahead.
it's a journey that started somewhere.
Yes.
And out of all these very difficulties that we went through, we have to push and then move forward with a dream that was within us. Like I indicated, I didn't just start it right from school. I went straight to the university. I have to work.
Okay.
And then to raise enough money so that I can pay my tuition at the university. And then the kind of work that I was doing, I was a taxi driver.
Okay.
And then I have to raise money to pay my tuition fees and then go to the university. I could only go there for 2 years, and then after that I have to stop and then
Raise
go
some
and
more
then
money
raise another money
and
then go back to the university.
we kind of do that too.
Yes.
Over this side.
Yes, this is my 11th year at the university as an employee.
Okay.
Yes, I've been there for 8 years as a student.
Okay.
As a
As a
student.
student.
Yes, as a student. From all my undergraduate degrees, I did them there after the doors of learning opened for everybody. The university is facing a challenge of transformation. You know, there will always be pockets of resistance, and there will always be pockets of excellence in terms of transformation. But they are there, and the privilege of staying there, even though some people say it's a disadvantage, I could relate to how the institution is transforming.
Well, you're certainly part of the transformation team of the university.
I know where you will have your stumbling blocks, and you will have your smooth running and smooth transformation and so on.
Yeah. And one thing that we consistently remind ourselves is that where we are has come at great cost to many people, that not only sacrifice in terms of paying fees and so on, but in terms of their lives being lost to create a better society where we could be judged in terms of what we can do, not because of how we do.
And it makes you humble, doesn't it?
Yes.
You know, and we're really privileged to have you here. And I know you're trying to formulate some linkages
Yes.
with our college, Catholic College of Manitou. And I think that's very noble. And also, you know, I am wanting you to just give me some last words, and they're just single words about yourselves that other people can take from their own challenges. That quality that is needed to move from where you were to where you are.
Never give up.
Never give up. You're a professor, and that's a single word.
Yes.
Never give up. Okay, wonderful.
Yes, that's a
And I
single.
think I'm just elaborating that we have to keep hoping.
Hope.
Yes.
Keep hope alive. You know, there was one of our mottos here at Catholic College is His cross, our hope.
Yes.
And that's
the
quite
only- yes.
significant.
Live your dream.
Live
Yes.
your dream.
Yes, irrespective of your social stations.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. And I really enjoyed having this interview with you. And I know through your experiences, you are going to now have younger people and other people
Yes.
be inspired
Yes.
to move forward.
Yes.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your stay in
Thank
Jamaica.
Thank you very much.
Okay.